Joining me now from Bowmanville on the phone, Aaron O'Toole. He's the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade. He's also a veteran. Peter Stauffer is in Halifax. He's the NDP's Veterans Affairs critic, and Joyce Murray is the Liberal National Defence critic. She is in, I think, Vancouver. All right, Aaron O'Toole, let me start with you. The former Chief of the Defence Staff, Rick Hillier, said there needs to be a public inquiry or a royal commission. What's the government's response?
Well, first, Evan, I think it's good that Rick Hillier is joining his well-respected voice to this national conversation. You know, when I helped start the True Patriot Love Foundation, a charity devoted to veterans and military families, it was after inspiration of his move to start the Military Families Fund. He certainly knows the challenges of military service, both in uniform and after release. And I think, you know, his discussion is a good one. You know, my concern about royal commissions or inquiries is sometimes those are used politically by all stripes over the years to push something off to the future and to put it arm's length, whereas I think we have to delve into these issues now. There are inquiries underway with respect to a number of the deaths, and the only positive generated has been discussion on what can we do to make sure that people that are at risk know that they're not alone and they can reach out and that we're there for them.
Let me bring in Peter Stauffer. General Hillier is talking about something broader, a royal commission. In your view, is that the right way to go?
Well, I think a commission down the road may be an inquiry of that nature may be very helpful. But Mr. O'Toole is absolutely correct. We need to do something now. And there are three things the government can do immediately in order to alleviate some of the concerns. One is end the nonsense of this universality of service, which basically means if you're not deployable, you're not employable. Right now, if somebody comes forward with a problem and they get diagnosed with PTSD or their 3B release, they're gone within 3 years of that notification, which means that they're out of the military. The other thing they can do as well is to ensure that the recent 4 deaths that have just occurred is work with those families immediately to ascertain what was going on in those individuals' lives, to see where the government or where we as a parliament failed them in terms of the services that were required. And the third thing as well is to make sure that they don't leave the military until they have other occupation to go to, which basically means they can stay in the service until they have the rehabilitative and retraining needs. Basically, if they left on a Friday, they would have new employment on a Monday. If they did that, they could alleviate a lot of the concerns that a lot of these individuals are going through.
All right, Joyce Murray, what's your take on the need for a national inquiry, that it's come to that? There's other things needed, Rick Hillier says, but it's so urgent, he says, it's time to restore faith in the system, and he thinks that's the best way.
Well, Evan, when the former Chief of Defence Staff says that something needs to be done and a public inquiry is an important step, I support that. And he's following on a recent interview in which Senator Romeo Dallaire has been also saying that just not enough is being done. And I think your viewers will know that General Dallaire has been talking about the need for change in culture around these kinds of injuries for quite a while. But that being said, I support there being immediate action. And in fact, I put an order paper question into the minister, and what I discovered is that more than 5 out of 10 bases don't have a psychiatrist. That's including important bases, Wainwright, Comox. And I found out that almost 4 or more than 4 in 10 bases have neither a psychiatrist nor a psychologist in the employ in that base. When I asked the minister these questions during the estimates, he brushed me off as if it wasn't his concern. So there is more to be done. We need more professional personnel, and we heard that on our Petawawa trip a week or so ago when the Defense Committee went to hear from the ill and injured there.
Mr. O'Toole, the government has said it's doing, as you said, more to support mental health in the military. An extra $11.4 million was added to mental health budget, although you hear Joyce Murray saying a lot of it has not meant services for the soldiers, but the total funding for mental health is up $50 million. But I asked Rick Hillier about that, and here's what he said as a response.
This is beyond a medical issue. I think that many of our young men and women have lost confidence in our country to support them, and the perception is that our country is not supporting them sufficiently. And one thing I learned long ago is that perception is reality.
what do you make of his comment that the soldiers, those men and women in the service, have lost confidence in the service's ability to support them?
I would think I wouldn't agree with that statement outright, Evan. What I would say is that the need is growing. So I think people are very concerned about increasing numbers of people suffering from operational stress injuries, and that's why we're trying to adapt the department to address that. You know, there's 17 operational stress injury clinics that have been open. There's mental health professionals being hired. Right now we have more than our NATO allies, but everyone knows we need more, and I think it was your program identified that there was a backlog and some of these professionals not getting hired. The veterans in our caucus, Evan, have said to the minister, we've got to do whatever it takes to drop the sort of stumbling blocks within the public service to get these people hired and out there, because where I agree with the general is that this is going to be an issue for the next decade as people come back and either release or move on to other jobs in the forces. They're going to be struggling with these issues, and they need to know that they can come forward. General Dallaire's, Joyce mentioned General Dallaire, he's been doing great work in this regard to say, look, the old way of suck it up and that sort of approach of the military from 20 years ago is not acceptable, and people have to reach out for help. And there are success stories. There's a great program called the Veterans Transition Network that our government supports that helps veterans transition, and the executive director of that program is a graduate, so he's recovered. So we got to tell that story.
I got about 30 seconds here, Mr. Stauffer, Joyce Murray. I mean, there are some programs there. Your reaction to the fact that General Hillier says it's about confidence, the government says it's about, getting these programs off the ground.
Well, absolutely. The denial that Aaron just expressed is part of the problem here, actually, Evan. And the minister has been saying it's just about the soldiers needing to come and self-identify. No, there's a loss of confidence in the kinds of supports if someone is injured, whether it's in the new Veterans Charter or in the supports that are present today. It's simply not adequate, and there are specifics that were recommended by the Defense Committee's study on PTSD 4 years ago that have never been put in place, and the government just has to stop denying the problem and act now.
Mr. Stauffer, last word to you.
Very quickly, the Defense Ombudsman, the Veterans Ombudsman has made very serious recommendations that in many cases have been ignored to this point. But the final point I'd like to make is I've asked the government on 6 separate occasions, do you or do you not have a fiduciary, moral, legal, and social responsibility to care for those you ask to put in harm's way? They have yet to answer that question. And that says a lot about the veteran community and what this government thinks in terms of its moral responsibility to care for them if they become injured.
All right, I got to leave it there. Aaron O'Toole, Peter Stauffer. Joyce Murray, I appreciate your time today. To all 3 of you, I wish you the best over the holiday season if I don't get a chance to.
Thank you,
too,
and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone.